The market sells on Friday and continues into Tuesday. Should the bulls be worried? This is Invest with Jacob. Okay guys, so in last week's video we talked about the fact that as long as the bulls held support, pressure in the market remained up, and on Friday the bears brought the market all the way down to support. Over the weekend and into Tuesday they actually broke through that support, and now the question is, are the bulls done? I'll get into that in just 1 second, but first, if you're new here, welcome to the show, guys. My name is Jacob Gabbard, and this is Invest with Jacob, where we use Elliott Wave Theory to break down the SP500 and the NASDAQ. I highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below so that you can get our daily S&P updates, our trade setups, and our buy alerts. All right, one quick housekeeping note. My microphone went out over the weekend, so that's why there was no show yesterday, and that's why the audio is subpar today. Unfortunately, it will take a week and a half to 2 weeks to get it back. So until then, we will have to deal with some subpar audio. I do apologize for that in advance. For now, let's jump into the chart and take a look. Okay, guys, so here we are on the daily SPX chart. And I wanted to show the daily because of the big picture. I wanted to give you guys an update on that, and as well as talk about all of the potentials that we could see moving forward. There's really only two in my opinion, but we'll look at them in depth here on the daily and then drill down a little bit. So off of the low back here, we had talked about 4,300, and when you're down here, guys, the only way you have to estimate what the target's going to be when it goes back up is fibs, because you don't have the structure yet to forecast the waves. So we said 4,300, which is the 618 retrace, very common for a wave B, at 4,320 actually, and that's what we were looking for, and it did push above that by about 100 points, and wave Bs can go actually higher than this high, but they can go to the 764 as a very common target as well. So the fact that it's still pushing isn't something that is super alarming in that way. It's nothing out of the ordinary has happened. The MACD is stretched. I don't think that this is the bullish move that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And I have this blue box for B. I would say 45.13 is where I would start to more strongly consider the alternate path. So I still think we're in this B wave higher and looking for down. And then on top of that, on Friday, we did get that reversal candle on lots of volume, well above average on the SPX. You can see there's average at the blue line, and it went well above that. So we haven't had that kind of volume since May. So real strong move up there, or real strong volume on the move down, I should say. And that's a nice thing to see when you see a reversal candle. You want it to be accompanied by volume, and you want to see a little bit of follow through, which we saw on Tuesday. One of the other things to look at is the MACD, and when we look at that, you can see that the MACD is starting to turn over on the daily, and if that turns over and crosses this orange line, that is a very strong signal that a top is in, because in order for that to happen, one, there'll be more follow through, which will break support, as well as when the MACD turns down, you see big drops in the market. So still divergence on the MACD, very stretched up here at 60. This is the highest meter reading ever, and it's up about as high as the second highest reading ever right now. So really stretched there. We would look for the turnover and cross, and then a move down. So nothing out of the ordinary in that regard. However, because they have pushed up here, the other thing, sorry, one more thing. They did just poke over the 1.0 extension of 1 and 2, or A and B, depending on how you're counting it. And that's very common for a C wave as well. We would expect this to be the C wave of B. And that's the 1.0 is 44.22. They poked above it at 44.40 and then started to reverse and are now well below it. So all of the things you would expect to see in this area are happening. And there's nothing that tells me that we're not going to be in this move down that I've been looking for since last October. Now, again, that move down can be an A, B, C into 3,800 and then up to all-time highs, okay, if we get that. But if it's an impulsive move, we would expect much lower than 3,800. So for the bullish count that I was talking about earlier, that would be off the low that you have a wave 1 up. Now here's the biggest and first problem I have with this. There's not enough waves here even for a diagonal. It overlaps right here. This is all overlap. There's not enough waves here for a diagonal to play out correctly. It doesn't really fit the pattern. It's not something I am fully on board with, but price is the final arbiter, and that's all we can talk about. So what we would look at is this being wave 1 up, wave 2 down, 1 of 3, 2 of 3. Now 3 of 3 typically hits the 1, 2, 3, 6, which is 45.93. We just poked over the 1.0, and we're already stretched in a lot of places. Now, that's okay in a wave 3. They do stretch the market. That is part of their DNA, if you will, but they just got to over the 1.0, which is a valid wave 3 of 3 target, by the way. It's a secondary target, but you really want to see the 1, 2, 3, 6 get hit if that's what we're going to do. So you'd see that, and then what you'd look for is a 4 of 3 from here, and that should pull back towards 40 to 60. Then you'd look for 5 of 3 up toward, back up toward the 4800 area, back to the highs, and then a wave 4, and then a 5 up from there. So they haven't even gotten much past the 1.0 yet, and I would want to see them come down, hold support, and then break higher over this high, and that would be extremely bullish, and you would have about 600 points. I'm looking at the 51 to 5400 area to the upside if that's what plays out. Again, I do not like this count. I don't like this wave 1. I don't like where the MACD is. I just don't think it fits personally. But again, if I see them pull back, hold support, and then come back, take out the high, I will not argue with price. So that is a big picture look. Let's dive into the 5-minute chart. Okay, so off of this high, there's a couple things I'm looking at. Number one is this does have a nice little 5 waves down here. So you'd have a 1, 2, 1, 2, and then it's possible that it went 3, 4, 5 based on what it looks like on the ES, the futures chart, because you can see kind of what happens in this gap. 3, 4, 5 with a nice 5-wave structure down here. It's also possible that this is all of 3. You're getting wave 4 now, and then you get one more low to make 5 down. So those are the 2 bearish looks that you'd want to see off of the top if you're looking for the C wave down. If that's going to be the case, we would expect an ABC back up into the 4400 to 4423 area. So you'd look for a little ABC, and then you'd look for them to come down and break this low, and that would be a very strong start to a move down. It would be really strong if they come down and break this low here at 43.37. That's pretty strong support on the upper side, and would be a pretty good indication that one of the 2 downside counts would play out. So to the downside, for the bullish count, you would be looking at this being wave 4 of 3. So this was wave 3 of 3 topped. Then you'd have an A, B, C down toward the 4340 to 4300 to 4260 area. You'd look for that to play out, and then if they can hold support and come back up, that would be more indicative of that bullish count I talked about in the big picture. So you'd look for an ABC up here, and then that move down into that area to the pivot area, which I showed on the big picture chart. Should be down a little bit more here. So that would be the downside bullish look, where we get a downside look and then they get bullish again and come back out and take out this high. And then the other option would be that they want to go hit that 1236 at 4600, and so you've got this pullback here that's just kind of a run-of-the-mill wave 3 style pullback. When you're in 3 of 3, you get these kind of smaller pullbacks that hold and then start to push again back up. This does not look impulsive to me. You'd want this to be impulsive to the upside for wave in the weeds here, but 5 of 3 of 3. This move up doesn't look impulsive, so I would expect more the ABC or the wave 4 look that I talked about. So those are the options we're kind of tracking. Most of them do result in lower from here, and this support level is one really to watch. If they can get below 43.37 on the SPX, that is something to keep an eye on from a bearish perspective, especially if it's in an impulsive move to the downside. The big thing here is we're kind of waiting for this mess to play out. So you have this first initial move down that looks pretty good, and now you got kind of a messy wave, and it's right in that 382 zone where it can still be a wave 4 and it can still be an ABC up. So that's kind of the thing. Is this going to be a 4 or 5, or will they hold up here? You know, will they hold this low here and then make an ABC and then come lower? So that's kind of what we're watching, is how this wave plays out. If it continues to the downside, I'd call it more of a wave 5 then, and then look for a bounce. But if they're able to hold support in the 43.80 to 43.75 region and then, you know, push it up back into our targets for higher, then we'd be looking at that being an ABC. So I know that's a lot, but topping areas can be very difficult. They can be very choppy, and so until we get a clear picture of this bounce after we push down here, once we get a clear picture and can see if they can break some more support, then we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at in the overall big picture scheme of things. Over on the NASDAQ, okay, on the big picture in the NASDAQ, they did poke over the 764 here, and then they started to reverse perfectly valid B-wave target. We'll see if they can follow through to the downside. They still need to break support lower at 14,389. That would be a big level for them to break. If they can get down below this area, that would be a strong indication that we are trying to reverse and push this down in the C wave that we've been talking about, or at a minimum in a bigger wave 2 that would come down into this 12,000 area, hold support, and then try to come back up after that. On the MACD for the NASDAQ, it is also trying to curl over. It tried to curl here, couldn't quite do it, trying to curl again. And as long as, and if they can get this to push down and cross, again, just like on the SPX, that is a strong sign for the bears. Drilled in on the 5-minute chart. Okay, drilled in on the NASDAQ. This does look like a potential 5-wave move down here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you would look for an ABC move back up into resistance, which would be 15,302 up to 15,393. And then you look for a resumption of the move down after that in the start of wave 1 of 3. So you'd actually look for 1 of 3 down, excuse me, and then 2 of 3 up, and then down. That breaks down and breaks this support down here. This is a pretty key level on the NASDAQ. They really need to break down through this 14,976 area. It breaks 2 significant lows and then starts us back in toward wave 1, which would be a very strong indication that we are starting to move down. It would also likely cross the MACD on the daily, and as long as we get an impulsive look, we would get a nice setup for a strong move down at that point. So NASDAQ does have a very valid 5-wave setup with an ABC push, and then we would look for the 1-2 to the downside. If they're going to stay bullish, they really need to hold it at about the 15,000 level to 15,900, 14,900 level, right in this area. And then they would look for one more push up in 5 of 3 that would take us close to the all-time highs. And then you'd look for a wave 4 and then a bigger wave 5 that would take us higher from there. That's the bullish alternative. I don't love that count, and I don't think it fits as well on the NASDAQ. It is super extended, more than it's ever been, and it is starting to curl over, and we did get some volume in on the downside with some follow-through. So I do think the NASDAQ will push down at least to the 15,000 level, either after an ABC or in a little bit more of a direct fashion. Guys, if you love the information I put out in these videos and you want real-time market updates from me, you need to check out investwithjacob.com. There's a link down in the description. Go ahead and click that link. It will take you right over to the website. Once you're there, check out our membership plans area. We have 2 incredible monthly plans, okay, as well as my Elliott Wave for Beginners online course. The monthly plans do include this online course. However, if you do not want to be a monthly member, you can buy the course a la carte. This online course is everything you wanted to know about Elliott Wave if you didn't know how to use it or wanted to understand it or how I find these targets or support or any of these other things. This course right here will tell you how. It's 25 videos that show you how I set up my chart, all the tools I use to confirm the things I'm looking at, how I use those tools, and then the Elliott Wave for Beginners course overall with all of the waves broken down and how to find their targets and what to look for exactly. It's an incredible course. Guys, it's $67 one-time payment, or it is included in both monthly subscriptions. In our first room, the Invest with Jacob room, you get all of my real-time market updates, all of my buy and sell alerts, all of your Elliott Wave questions answered, a midday video where I go over exactly where we are in the counts and what to expect, as well as the training material you just saw. We trade the SPY and the QQQ, and we swing trade, which means our trades can last anywhere from a few days to a few months, so we don't trade quite as often as a day trading room does. However, if you are interested in day trading as well as individual stocks, you need to check out PT's Throne Room. In there, you get everything you get in the Invest with Jacob room, as well as individual stocks, day trading, and PT's reduced risk binary method that absolutely crushes the market. He gets you in at a cheap price and gets you huge multiples on your money, and it's how he structures the trade that's so unique. Something you kind of have to see to understand, and that's another reason we give you that 7-day free trial. He also started a challenge account where he put $4,000 into an account trading mini ES futures, showing you how to build a small account into a large retirement or savings account. Guys, we would love to have you in these rooms so we can all make money together. Okay, key takeaways for today. On the SPX, we're going to see if we get a 4 or 5 here, but based on the NQ, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's more likely we see an ABC push into the 4412 area or 4400 area and then down. and how that takes shape will tell us whether we're pointing toward the 4260 area or lower. Over on the NASDAQ, we do have a pretty valid 5 waves down here. We would look for an ABC back up towards 14,343, and then we'd look for a pretty strong push down from there. If they want to stay bullish, they need to hold around the 15,000 region. They really don't want to give up these two lows here at about 14,976. We can see below that, we may see the ball rolling to the downhill at that point. If they do hold, they can take it directly higher on a push toward all-time highs at that point, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Guys, that is the market update for today. I will talk to you tomorrow.